Former F1 driver Jolyon Palmer has suggested that Lewis Hamilton was too cautious after the safety car restart at the British Grand Prix, which potentially cost him a shot at victory. Mercedes were right on the pace at Silverstone, with Hamilton ending the race with another podium and with the addition of the fastest lap point. But it could have been even more. The Brit was on the pace of the leaders throughout, and if it wasn't for a 2-second pit stop delay, he would have been right with the Ferrari duo before the yellow flag was waved due to an issue to Esteban Ocon's Alpine. Before we go any further, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the GP blog channel if you enjoy this kind of content. Back to it. However, Hamilton still had a chance of victory once the safety car came in, but quickly saw Sergio Perez race past him and had to settle for third place after overtaking Charles Leclerc on his worn out hard tyres. In his analysis video for F1 TV, Palmer went through the biggest incidents in the 2022 British Grand Prix, including the events that transpired with Hamilton. The former Renault driver believes Hamilton was a little too cautious on the safety car restart, potentially due to the poor tyre warm-up the Mercedes have struggled with all season. That getaway meant Hamilton lost ground to Sainz off the restart, and therefore the race win got away from him. Palmer thinks he may have been too worried about a mistake, which allowed Perez to be more aggressive and get a move done. Palmer was surprised Hamilton didn't cover the inside at turn 3 after he overtook both Perez and Leclerc at the chicane. Perez's aggression saw him get a move done down the inside of Hamilton, and he forced the Mercedes driver wide for good measure, which allowed Leclerc to come through. Palmer then went on to suggest that he thinks Hamilton may have been racing too fairly with Perez, which saw him lose position to the Mexican, especially given how the stewards judged the entire British Grand Prix, where they essentially just let most things go. There was also a difference in how Hamilton and Perez raced Leclerc in the same section of racetrack, just one lap apart. While the Mexican kept his foot in at the final chicane despite hard defending from Leclerc, Hamilton bailed out in order to avoid contact. Perez actually left the track and lost position to Hamilton when he overtook Leclerc, which he rectified a few corners later, but the 7-time world champion waited for another opportunity to attack the Monegasque. Of course, Hamilton later overtook Leclerc for the podium, but there's a suggestion that if he'd maybe done that move a little earlier, he might have been able to come back at Perez and try and get second. While Hamilton was racing clean, Palmer thinks he may have been too fair, while Perez was aggressive yet wasn't punished by the stewards, despite supposed changes to the rules on defending this year. Furthermore, Leclerc's dive on Sergio Perez on lap 1 was something that could have ended his race, but he braved it and would have won the Grand Prix were it not for Ferrari's pit wall keeping him out on worn hard tyres after the safety car. So, Palmer believes Hamilton's fair racing style actually may have cost him at Silverstone. Are Palmer's comments fair? Well, Jolyon Palmer has pointed a reason as to why Hamilton wasn't able to maximise his result at Silverstone like Sergio Perez. To question his driving style altogether would be foolish. After all, he was one lap away from the Drivers' Championship in the last race. He had a car capable of winning races on merit. Sure, the 2022 season hasn't started in immaculate fashion, but Hamilton has now scored back-to-back podiums at Canada and Silverstone and is well within the fight for a good finish in the championship. His new Mercedes teammate George Russell may be slightly ahead of him in the standings, but the former Williams driver has been helped out massively by safety cars on numerous occasions this year. While Hamilton may not be as aggressive as Verstappen or even Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez, he's intelligent and just damn quick. You don't lose the ability behind the wheel at the push of a button, and Hamilton is certainly not past it. His driving style has seen him win 7 world championships, so I'm not sure it can be criticised. Furthermore, both Leclerc and Perez collided and suffered damage in Silverstone, while Hamilton didn't, and he did beat the former as well as Max Verstappen, who also had damage. Furthermore, Verstappen's last lap defending against Mick Schumacher was reminiscent of the old Max Verstappen that many thought had gone, but he remains as aggressive as ever when defending, sometimes pushing over the limit. Palmer pointed out that Max was lucky Mick bailed out, even though he had a right to go for a move, because of what happened when Kevin Magnussen and Alex Albon were in a similar scenario 2 years ago. Albon backed out a little later than Schumacher, and Magnussen went flying into the barrier as he didn't give the Thai driver the room on the inside. That could have happened to Verstappen, and he could have been out of the points. Max did the same thing at Brooklands on Schumacher as he did on Leclerc on lap 1, completely running him off track, something Palmer believes was pushing the limits. Hamilton may not be the most aggressive driver, but it's what sees him hold little blame for crashes. The last time he was truly aggressive came at Copse Corner last year and saw him heavily criticised by Red Bull. Verstappen's aggressive style has adorned him to much of the public, but it's also made him public enemy number 1 in Britain, as shown by the boos that were sounded around Silverstone on Sunday. The fact Verstappen was booed was not correct, and it's something that shouldn't be happening in the sport, but it shows how F1 divides the masses. Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc and Perez all have opposing styles of driving, and they are all excellent. Between Hamilton and Verstappen, one bides his time, while one will simply go for it. One has 7 world titles, but only has a few years left at the top, while one has 1 world title and a decade or more left in F1. Whose style is better? You tell me. Thanks for watching this video on GP Blog. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you next time.